Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. The title of tonight's episode is Reevaluating the Socio-Linguistic Simulation. And I wanted to share some ideas that I feel may, in some sense, be a new approach to the archaic. So just to explain, usually at the beginning I explain the title. When I say reevaluating the sociolinguistic simulation, the sociolinguistic means, in some sense, the influence of society on our use of language, or how society, in some sense, has been influenced by language, the relationship of language and society. So if you saw how language is occurring on this earth, and you saw how society developed, it is in some sense the infusion. I feel that we, in some sense, before we were social creatures, we were in some sense creatures that were aware of our own self. It's as if, like, for how long did this creature express without an awareness to its environment? So I feel that in a language meaning intelligence moving, it started from before a societal kind of condition. So before we were tribes, we were just a creature in the world. We were trying to be the movement of some story to ourselves. So it's kind of saying that you are a character to yourself first, then you are a character to others in accordance to how you see yourself, your language, based on it's kind of like how you see the society, the language is welcomed by the society. Oftentimes what we think is like another person's culture, is literally how in different part of the world they see, like, for example, the same thing but with a different conclusion on its value. Now it's kind of complex, because if you look at society from like an aerial view, playfully, it would be a sort of situation where you're seeing this brain, and every unique person is like a unique neuron in this brain. Do you see? Every person is like some development, something. This is as far as it appears, and what I mean by that is, I'm trying to think how to say it. I want to kind of, when I say reevaluating, I mean literally it's the question of the now. That means all those people who they've their whole life through their metaphysics or whatever, anybody in the here and now, reevaluation is the game of the here and now. It's not just here, it's how the here is being now, and the here is being different senses of now in accordance to different states of mind. So before I really go into the human being, I want to speak about. See, it's like anything that relates to a person, it will eventually have something to do with the inner realms of that human being and the outer realms of that human being. Now, the outer realms is how the world is. The inner realms is to what of the world our eyes have opened to. You see? So in some sense, for example, in my inner realms, in these talks, I'm sharing that I feel like I'm an attributeless presence. I feel the mind is this field. It's not an object, you know? So that's in some sense my inner realms. That's the experience. That's how far my own eyes have gone. But when I wonder about what is the world surpasses my comprehension, my processing, my sight. This universe is just, look at its mass. Look at how big it is. This place that we are in right now, this world of ours. It is so huge that on some level there's no ultimate answer to everything. It's also a changing system. We're not living in a painting that you can find the truth and the truth is the same 24/7. I mean, certain things on a macro cosmic level, like the earth keeps spinning around itself, it keeps spinning around the sun. I mean, these are macrocosmic events, but what I'm saying is, like, pretty much you open up to the dimensions of what you're studying. Anything you look at, you're looking at the dimensions it's kept. When I'm trying to reevaluate the socio-linguistic simulation, I'm kind of seeing that how all human beings, we exist through language. So technically, if you want to be an individual in society, you have to in some sense be a character in a story, you know? Unless the society is like back in the day in Vedic times or certain times where people had this notion that there was an immortality dimension going on, right? There was not an immortality dimension. I mean, that's a ridiculous way of saying it, right? There was more dimensions to the being. Right now, the mind and body have been kind of come to an inseparability. Right now, if I ask you, tell me, is the world, tell me the difference between your world and your mind. You will notice in your personal experience, your world is being your mind, is it not? Isn't your mind, doesn't the sensory perception, right now I'm a person in a room, the way it appears for me is that the sensory perception appear like this spherical vastness. Literally, the consciousness of the human being is like a light in a dark room. It has an influence, but it doesn't illuminate every part of the room, you know? So anyways, I feel we are creatures that just were moving as a pure silent object unconsciously. And then we became conscious that we're separate from the earth, and the greatest, one of the most divine miracles I consider was the design of legs and creatures, you know? For me, the objective evolution was the fact that there were limbs, the fact that nature became separate to itself, and it became the concept creature. It was just creation, it was just existence, and then this existence became conscious of itself. And it became conscious of itself through language. So as language, it's like we needed, it's kind of fascinating. You see this in reality. Language and society strengthen one another. And pretty much our society updates from language. So here's the cool thing, that a lot of things people are considering real, it's not actually there. Right now, if you ask me who I am, I could tell you my backstory, where I was born, what I feel I am in this moment. But all of those are a sculpture of sound in the moment. And man is not just a sculpture of sound in the moment. I've written a sentence here. Language's importance is the fuel of the societal engine. What that means is a society is as active as its values, and its values are kind of like an alphabet set in stone in the void. On some level, you have to hold one thing meaninglessly, and then you build the meaning all around it. I mean, when I say when you hold one thing meaninglessly, that means there needs to be the first unknown for there to know something. That means there's some people who feel they know everything, but they don't realize they don't know. They don't feel like, for me, it was an exciting moment when I realized I don't know something. You know, it's exciting. It's literally like some event is going on that I haven't noticed yet. I feel that when we really look at human beings, the most advanced technology, aside from our computers, phones, and all external technology, is the inner technology of language. I'm kind of seeing that human beings are never just a part of the moment, they're their whole moment, you know? That means it's like if I ask you right now, is your body real to you and nothing else just real to you? Is only your physical body real to you? Or is the world real to you? And the relationship of the body and the world is that they're kind of codependent. It's like science says your body came from the world, you know, and in some sense, like the world after evolution, the body emerged. Now, in a different context, it's as if like the person is like a mind which is projecting a body. So let me tell you what that means. That means pretty much two things have ever always been happening to the human being. Either self has been moving world, or world has been moving self. Yeah. Right now, the self is moving world. A conditional presentation in the free will. A conditional presentation in reality while there's free will. So ultimately, what I'm saying is that in order for us to reevaluate how life has a meaning, we recognize it's a simulation in our conscious waking state, and its dimensions are one societal and the other linguistic. Now, it's kind of saying like, kind of bringing discussions of epigenetics and somehow kind of wondering what has been influencing the gene that is from outside of the gene. That means you have a DNA. Your DNA is kind of like, I don't know, playfully see it as a seed. And right now, whoever you are who's alive, you're kind of like the apple tree or whatever tree that emerged from that seed DNA, right? It's like the DNA had the program in it, had the information in it, and we are just the proper. It's kind of like you put a plant in the sunlight, you water it, and you wait. You know what I mean? So thinking about how you are a creature, how you are a social creature, and how you are a creature of how you have accepted language as a human being. So that's the thing. And when I say simulation, I mean, guys, really, this is an incredible point, I think. I don't know why, like, shocked me when I realized it because I thought, why hadn't anybody talked about it? Right now, if a person tells you where is the you, that means whatever sense of idea of you have, is it in physical reality? Is it in matter? Is the idea, is the subject you feel you're being conscious as, is that material? Can you right now we know there is a mind, you know? That word exists because of, in some sense, our ability to respond, to acknowledge, to see more, right? So there is this mind, okay? But the mind is not just the brain. It is what is happening to the brain, and what is happening to the brain is arising from its inner environment and outer environment. Your society is the outer environment. The way you accept language experientially is your inner environment. So this causes the simulation of kind of like two eyes to see the same. You know, you're an object and a subject simultaneously. Isn't that strange? Isn't that strange that evolution? I get it. Just let's be pure materialists, but why did the creature evolve to a subject to itself, right? So there's a question right now in regards to all the species on this planet. We're definitely different. you know Either kind of like religion says we failed a grade and we're here, you know or in some sense we are way ahead than all the others. When I look at things scientifically, really it's about ascension. Science feels it doesn't know and wants to go towards more knowing. But religion feels it knows and wants to eventually see the unknown, right? So for the religious person is actually looking for an unknown experience. And I feel the scientific mind is looking for a known experience because whatever is unknown has to eventually be assimilated, kind of filtered. So I'm saying that when you go outside and you speak to people, first question, how many societies are there? And what I mean by that is that how many views on the same society could there be? What that means is I understand patriotism, I understand nationalism, I understand that it was nationalism that helped us kind of solidify our actual languages. That means most people don't realize this. You know, so it's not that any in life things are good or bad. It's that it's when they are accessed that makes them good or bad. Do you know? It's like when it's like imagine that person who couldn't that swordsman back in the day who couldn't find in some sense like a knife, to cut his steak, so he took out his sword. You know what I Pretty much this has been one of the most oldest questions, and it was in mysticism, and pretty much the word mystic was kind of reaching the end of this question. And that was the view that life was a dream. It is very kind of understandable that when someone becomes uncomfortable with an environment, is because the environment is either changing them before their inner realm is ready, or the environment in some sense has a request from their inner realms where they can't deliver. I feel we don't just live. Every person you see ever, they have an outer life and they have an inner life, but we act as if, especially in Western society, we act as if the inner life is invisible. And then we wonder why we hurt people's feelings, for example, I saw this hilarious thing going on in this political correctness kind of ordeal that's going on with Western civilization and around all those people from the intellectual dark web. Is that really it's like one person gets offended, then that person feels he has the right to offend the person who offended them. So what I'm telling you, it's literally like basic kind of fight or flight, and fight or flight was the archaic. So that means it's like this is the basic. In any situation you go, you can go forth, you can leave, or Mr. Within would say you can watch and see what makes the first move. That means usually in war movies we see the general, like there's in this show, the general is still. The general could be said to be the most still person on the battlefield, looking at everything. Why? Because the first step suggests the advantage. The person who gets access to information first, in some sense, in whatever game they're playing, they go ahead. You know? Pretty much a lot of games in life, it's just information allocation. That means I'm really thinking that a lot of human movement was, if you look at it back in the day, was inspired out of us actually moving and getting information. Here's the thing, if we create a world that comes to us and we don't have to move to it, we become minds at the end. If we create a world where we require to physically move and actually keep being biological human beings, then in some sense it's like, I'm telling you, it's like, I honestly feel if we don't ground ourselves as 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere with an ultimatum, not an ultimatum, with an ultimate goal, with an activity, what's going to happen is that it's going to become kind of like a ship that's sinking, and the more water comes in it, the less people care about fixing the holes. I feel we have access to two modes of perception. I feel we can move as experience, and we can move existentially. When I physically move, I move existentially. Literally, I go and, um, I don't know, eat something, grab something to drink. Like it becomes a sort of existential relationship. Literally, I don't need thoughts, I don't need beliefs, I don't need ideology. Literally, existence is existing and I'm consciously moving with it. But it is experience that seems to be the new update. And especially not just experience alone, conscious experience. That means the fact that we are aware of what we're doing. That means, you know what that means? That means back in the day in evolution, it would be a sort of context where nobody had an opinion on anything. Nobody was conscious of anything. That means, imagine two cavemen could have walked past one another, and one of them could have been being killed by an animal, and the other caveman could have been oblivious. We were not conscious of ourself and the environment. But now, especially if you want to know about the metaphysics of the upcoming, I feel we're going to go through one more evolutionary phase, but it's not. It's going to be maybe 120 years from now, and that evolutionary phase, it's going to be, or maybe less. I don't know. It's going to be when man's. It's going to be like the epitome, the frontier of epigenetics. It's going to be how cyberspace changes the psychological constitution of the body for to its own health. You know what that means? That means if the person didn't like, for example, waiting at the doctor's office, they would instantly escape it. Let's say they would put virtual reality goggles and they'd be like in some battlefield instead, you know? So I'm saying it's kind of like this. It's like we're going to get bored with how information is instantaneously coming to us, and either we're going to go kind of, I don't know, like, either we're gonna either either we're gonna get, listen, it's like there's so much information moving around. At some point the soldier in the battlefield will get tired and identify with it. I feel like, a person can see that it's like when a person gets old in this world, it becomes like I feel you kind of go towards chaos and order may live in the same neighborhood, may exist in the same world. But I feel really what sets us apart, sets really the intelligence of the human being apart, is that he can tell what is being and what is the human activity. That isn't it? You're kind of like being energy right now before you do anything. It's like, what is being? Energy just conscious of itself. It's like, what can you say? Instantaneous consciousness of energy. Maybe that's what being is. But how energy moves becomes the doership, becomes the social function. Because society, it's not just society, guys. It's just any time you are in a room where there is more than your mind in the room, then the mind's vision has to, in some sense, the mind has to see. It's literally, some people hide under a shield, some people have the shield, but their eyes are looking out from the top corner of it. You know what I mean? I feel that these are all kind of stepping stones. I feel that society is made in the reflection of the language. Society's result is based on is society is the reflection of how the language in people's mind is setting their mind towards modes of behavior. So for me, it's like, how do you? It was Terence McKenna who made a great point on this. He said, a culture evolves as fast as its language does. That means literally, if we don't create new words, if we don't kind of try to expand the human dictionary of all potential experiences, it's like, this was my shock. Do you know how many new words should be created? Do you know every human being who's alive should probably will probably at some point in their life experience something that there isn't a concept for? You know, it's like when you're an individual behind your eyes, you're not really an object. So I feel we don't have the fear of an object. I feel beyond the limitations of the body, there's literally not a relationship with a body. But then one would ask, what kind of relationship is there? And it's a relationship of intelligence with space. Human life, right now, me and you are on this side of the coin. It's human life. Okay? So, how would I say it? It's like we are right now, any human being that's alive hearing me, you are kind of in the human experience meant to learn from matter. You're meant to learn from matter. I mean, literally, our lives are the dance of matter and space, really. I mean, where else does the attention go? Things are created, things endure, things are destroyed, things leave the system, things enter the system, things endure in the system, and things leave the system, you know? So I feel because we all have DNAs, every person's view on reality is their own simulation. Because nobody has your eyes, really. Literally, that's kind of what I noticed. It's like as anybody could come and tell me anything, but they don't have my eyes. You know what I mean? They could see me, they could hear my words, but they don't have my eyes. Just like I don't have their eyes. You know, that's the pure value. Really, right now, society and civilization is really materialistically focused, and the symptom of that, how we know this, is because costume games. I was literally looking at, like I was in downtown Toronto. You know, I was smoking a cigarette, kind of looking at the, what do you call it, like the environment, society, people, even behaviors and attitudes. And it was just as if, first of all, I'm like, what is this? Like, if an extraterrestrial species came down, they'll be like, what kind of stores do you guys have? It's just, let me tell you, I realized something, that it is better to experience something in a great way. It's kind of like it's better to experience things fully than to experience things partially. And that would translate also like it's better to um, buy a higher quality item than thinking that you're saving money and buying a lesser quality item. You know what I mean? That's of course that's my preference. That's my view. I feel like we go like, you know, if you had an excitement that you wanted to see what the most up to date things are, you would kind of move that way. When I was in downtown Toronto, I saw a weird kind of. I'm like, we're just obsessed with first of all rectangles and cubes, and it's like too many squares. There's too many squares in society, guys. Like literally, we need some sort of geometrical architectural revolution or something. You know, I'm kind of disappointed in the architects of our world. You know, I saw a sort of massive costume games where every person who is not familiar, let's say you go out. You know, it's kind of like this. It was a masquerade party. That's the artificialness of society. That is, and it's an illusion that we can't really get rid of, because once we endure through that illusion, we find real moments. You know, it's kind of like you need to keep somewhere as the idea of your home, your more ultimate comfort, and then somewhere that's outside of your home. You know, and you could be a person like Diogenes. The home for you could be the whole cosmos. You know. But I'm just saying there's this, it's kind of like while we're being a thought, or let me saying we while we are identifying with the momentary display of language in our inner realms, and also our momentary classification of the social view, whatever part of it we have access to. It's like while society, and like for a long time, guys, I was trying to think about what emotions is. And I realized I could speak about objects easily, I could speak about subjects easily. Then I was like, wait a minute, emotions, that's the mystery. Emotions kind of like they visit you, and when you person gets an emotion, if you're very mindful, you'll notice the emotion sets up a domino effect, and you gotta wait it out. That means if you're suddenly being an emotional person, just go wherever you are. Let's say you're a CEO in a boardroom and you get super angry or something. You know, it's like, imagine just go at the corner of the room, some humble position, and just lean back. You put your back on the wall, sit cross-legged, and just close your eyes and let the emotion pass. Not everything needs to constantly be responded to in life. Only those who are not afraid of the unknown, I think, understand this. I think those who think that the time is running out and they're not going to make it, those people are going to kind of like miss out. They're going to miss out on their own ability and choice. Because you see, in front of your eyes, you got to honor the biological program, you got to honor the world, you got to honor external reality's constitution. Okay? But behind your eyes, when we want to step there, you got to honor how you will be constituted, how you are constituting the view. So behind your eyes, it's like your mind moving bodies. In front of your eyes, you're a body that's moving your mind. Guys, it's like this. It's like, I think it's not, there's no such thing as thinking. I think we all are kind of, our brains are like antennas, and there is information everywhere, and we are just picking up what we can see. Because the way I have experienced how my inner realms move is not as a person, not as a personality. It's not like there's someone doing something. Even though I use the term pilot, to pilot your inner realms, I'm kind of sharing this idea that I'm like this person that's kind of giving commentary on how you can move non-physically. When I say pilot your inner realms, what I mean is that it's just an introduction to the language threshold. And when you understand there is more than language in this world, you recognize there is a life sensitive dimension. Regardless of your beliefs or morality or whatever you think, there is life happening before your mind moves. And when you notice that, you don't suddenly, your intelligence doesn't work with this kind of despair that I'm just little tiny fragment of consciousness, oh, I'm gonna vanish. Oh no. It's like, don't worry, it's like we came from non-existence, it seems, no? It's like there was a time where, like, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, all my problems are after I was born. Before I was born, I didn't have problems. It was only after. So it was only with the emergence of a sort of landscape and a conditional relationship of individual pieces in that language, positions moving in that language. So I am telling you that we are literally moving to a point where I feel certain, I'm writing a book on this, but I'm going to tell you here. Certain great transformations, I feel, need to occur for an advanced civilization to be accessed. Okay, right now it's kind of like an advanced civilization. I'm kind of saying it's like a party we can't see. We don't know where the address is, and we wanted 8 billion people, on a rock, want to go to this location, want to go see what this advanced civilization is. So the first thing is we got to find the address, and that means we got to find where it is, and that in some sense means we got to find how we can approach the idea of the advanced civilization. And then we got to consider it, is it just a human activity? When I talk about civilization 2.0, don't think I'm just talking to human beings. We're going to have AI's assistants. AI may become so sophisticated in the future that we may find a way to connect technology to animals to make them reach our level of consciousness. You see, you have two choices in this world. You either lift things up or you slam them down. You're either pulling things down or pulling things up. And what does that mean? That means in your psychology, it's like, it's just there where the person gets pushed, the person suddenly wants to push back. But they don't realize they will keep going down. The more you push, it's not just that. It's that this is kind of like why karma is strange, because the karma in the world that you think you have is simultaneously being the experience of your whole mind. So it's on some level we're like, is the world here or is my mind here? Then the world, you know? So anyways, where does this go? We become aware we're not objects. We consider that. We say we're a mind. Now we recognize we're not even minds. We're not a subject either. So if we're not an object, and if we're not a subject, and if we're a creature that is having an experience beyond any relationship an object and an object can have with an object, and an object can have with a subject, and a subject can have with a subject, and a subject can have with an object. You know what I mean? Like all these fathomable relationships of object and subject relations, you know? After some point, we see we are experiencing, our experience is higher dimensional than the language that emerges from us of our experience. You know, it's like somebody writing heaven on a piece of paper, and then like like someone with a vivid imagination being like, it's like, do you want to see the heaven on this piece of paper, or do you want to see heaven? You know what I mean? Do you want to see the ultimate, or do you want to, in some sense, be? You just want to acknowledge it. You see, it's like a lot of people want things, but a lot of people subconsciously feel they don't deserve it. That's the biggest issue. Sometimes it's not that people don't have good karma, they just don't know how to open the gifts when life gives it to them. You know? There's a quote by Rumi which is like an algorithm to this. He says, wear gratitude like a cloak and it will feed every corner of your life. That means when you look at your mind, don't be like, what is this world, this messed up place? Because technically you're insulting your mind. You know, it's like literally you can't hit someone without you getting hurt. That's the kind of law. You know, the intensity. There's the stress hits you back. I feel what this means is that our minds are not a particle. They are awareness of a process. Literally, the mind is like waking up as a river, waking up suddenly as a drop in a river. That's the mind. The body is its own thing. That means, do you know how many ways from just even not even too metaphysical or anything, just how many ways I've looked at my own physical body throughout this life? Like, I understand, yes, a mirror is very crucial. It makes you wipe the mustard from your face. But the mirror cannot give you meaning. The mirror shows you the meaning that you put in front of it. And what that means is sometimes the mind can't save you, but if you want to get up from the chair rather than wanting someone to pull you from the chair, then the mind activates itself. That means we become we access, it's like due to realizing that the mind is a process field, a field process, let's call it. Like it's like a field. It's like a process is what a field would do. You know, a field of activity. I'm saying, because there are certain texts, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, where they speak about the field of the activity of the the conscious field of activity, or the field of conscious activity, the field of activity of the knower. That's pure. That's like you can't find any more. All mysticism comes down to the question of why or who am I? How am I the value system? That means right now, if you think you're a good person, you're a bad person. Don't just don't let your emotions convince you who you are. Look at it. Because here's the thing that people don't realize. When you consciously attempt to observe, the mind commits. And so your interest, your excitement suggests how much it happens. That means I'm telling you, if you're someone who suddenly everything makes you excited, like every little thing is like fascinating for you, then you will live the most fascinating life on this earth. Because it takes little for you to become at the most highest energetic position you can be. You tell me, what is the more higher energetic state than the explorer? That's it. Pretty much we either sit in the kingdom and do nothing, or we go out, and, like the Night's Watch, see what's going on beyond the wall and come back. But now I'm saying the Night's Watch, it's like an inner, it's like an inner Night's Watch. Where we have to go and become hunter-gatherers of our inner realms, of how our minds are occurring. And after some point, it just becomes, we will become a civilization of research before we become a civilization of skill. And the destination is skill. Right now, people are making decisions with, let's say, a certain range of information. Research and research-based civilization would mean a civilization that has chosen, because information is the most crucial value, even more important than money. That means, what do businessmen look for? They don't look for, like, the businessman that looks for money is foolish. The businessman that looks for information is wise. That just wants to see what's going on first, just wants to get a sense of the room before the person enters it, So, if we have a new relationship with how we are a form, it will literally be a different movement of the life. So I'm saying, all conscious activity is an oscillation between the known and the unknown. The unknown is not conceptual, it's experiential. The known, it can be in some sense, or let me say it like this. Both of them have experiential and kind of void dimensions. You could look at a cup and see that it can be empty, and you could look at a universe and you can think it's empty. You can consider it's empty. It's like the dimensions connect, Right now, when I look at myself and I'm like, in this moment, how much of me is really me, and how much of me is, let's say, epigenetics and socio-linguistic. That means if I could write down who I feel I am, it means I exist as language to myself. And then it's kind of like how society gives you the experiences, and as the person gets the experience, they update, right? Let's say you've never done a backflip, you suddenly do a backflip, then you feel comfortable doing more. It's like, I feel we are experiencing life as a field, but we're existing as particles. And I feel the field is unknown because it's dynamic, and I feel the particles are known because the particles are changing slower than us. If literally this coffee cup, if the atoms started moving at a speed unfathomable, that would literally, this coffee cup would literally teleport out of existence, would vanish. Do you see what I mean? So it's literally, there is no such thing as kind of like, it's because we are faster than our world, we can define the slow. We can define that which is slow enough to be observed. But think of how many things right now. Like, you know, in the movie, I think it was X-Men or something, there was like this character, Flash, who goes and saves everybody in the school in an instant. Like, it was an epic film. Like, looking at how the director had made that scene was like, the guy moved so quick you couldn't see it. Now imagine how many things could potentially be moving so quick that we can't see. Certain schools of thought, for example, Shintoism, and of course, I'm just sharing my approach to how I have come to view the idea of Shintoism, but it was as if an idea where it was saying people, for example, in Buddhism, like the people, we personalize life. Our person is the center of our gravity. That means if you look at what your desires are, they're all kind of trying to satisfy the hunger of this image of yourself you have in the future, is it not? It's kind of like people kind of behavior and all this. I think it's literally a reaction to a hunger for not knowing what's going on, just being here. In Shintoism, there was this notion that it's not like one soul incarnating, having many bodies. It wasn't this idea that the soul has one body or is in life once and then it's going to go somewhere else. It's this relationship of, in Shintoism, where they saw a highway of souls moved before through every materialistic vessel. That means it doesn't matter if it's my physical body, it doesn't matter if it's this ashtray, you know, it doesn't matter if it's whatever it is. It's just endless things are moving through it. Endless souls are moving. It's as if literally there's a dimension, parallel dimension, and beings are endlessly moving in that dimension, and we think the dimensions are disconnected, but in some sense they're not. That means it's just like, think about how many relationships human beings have with one another. Just think about literally right now how many different kinds of human beings are roaming this planet as you are. You're a dwelling creature, you know. We all are. We're all just, you know, moving on the sphere. You know? Now, all these human beings, every person with a unique DNA, then after being born, how they were raised, how society spoon fed them whatever they came to perceive out of it. And now we're all here, every person in their own story, wondering, what do we do on this rock? What's the ultimate? How can we reevaluate? That means it's like, how do you reevaluate emptiness? I think literally the best strategy we have is not per se one that's just reliant on the hope that human beings will love each other. I think that's important and that's crucial, and we should take strides towards that. But I feel that the greatest strategy is, in some sense, trying to give mirrors to people. And that's what happened in my own life. I was going on this sort of solo kind of searching the depths of my own questions kind of journey. And then in the middle of it, I began to see, while I was so obsessed with living my own life, the whole cosmos was happening simultaneously. That feeling shifted me out of this constant need and want to just see myself the whole day. So when I stopped chasing that future desire of myself, I had access to look at everything anew. People don't realize it. It's not bad to plan for the future, but if your attention is on the future, not only have you forgotten the past, but also you miss out on the present. And I have personally experienced this. Literally, in my efforts of all the time I've spent for this work and all the writings and all this, it's like I made a decision at some point where it was more to live as a mind than a body. And that then there came this contentment. But at the same time, there was an insensitivity because things deteriorate over time. What does that mean? That means whatever definition you have of the system in that moment where you define it, if the system is changing, if one thing, one tiny thing is changing, in some sense it is not the same. That means literally if the whole body, if the cells of the body all froze in time, but except one tiny cell was moving, technically you would be identified with the changes of that cell, right? And there is this view that evolution in the Sufi mystic poet from 700 years ago by the name of Rumi, um, he spoke about the evolution of the human attention, not just from the moment of birth to death, but he spoke about it as if in this universal theatrical play, the human being has been playing as as like your soul, not your soul. The soul is an unknown; it's a poetic word, but I'm saying like uh, the attention that has that force that made genetics care for its own continuity, whatever that is. On some level, I feel evolution can become such a mysterious idea that it's going to become as if like we're looking at evolution as if like a slope, like upwards going hill, um, um, like draw horizontal. How do I say? We're looking at evolution as ascension. What we will find, there will be certain glitches in interpretation. There will be certain unknown moments. That means I feel what's very important is that a human being can't be who they are if they fear the unknown. And because they fear the unknown, they're looking to either, it's, you know what it is? It's like dishonesty is like rather than confronting the problem, endlessly moving, running away from the problem. That's kind of like it's like on some level it's like how far can you run? Everybody seems to be. There was this poet who said it. Everybody's running to their graves. That's why we need compassion. That's the inner battle of everyone. That they are on some sense just eyes here. What now? And we're all in that unknown wonder. That unknown wonder is one of the most greatest forces that will unite the species. We will not be peaceful because we don't want to be animals. We want to be peaceful because it will give us access to the advanced. You look at the trend, the more you go back in history, the more chaos was the ruler, you know? And there was always this sort of dichotomy in my youth. I would think that it was as if this view that there was this concept of sin, but yet God was forever forgiving. merciful, as some say. And I was thinking, if it's forever forgiving, how is there sin? And in some sense, if there is sin, do you know? You would kind of feel like if the God, if, like, let me tell you what it means. That means human beings have been literally trying to pinpoint the unknown experientially, and whatever belief system that has helped them get closer to it, they believe that. Not that they believe that that belief system is real to them. Well, I think the coolest thing a person can do in life is just go, I don't know, like you could be zen about it and go just get a cup of tea or something and just sit somewhere, around nature and just watch. Watch your moment of existence like a film and it will enlighten you. I'm telling you. I think no one's ever said it like that, but I think you know, your intuition is constantly all these synchronicities are like a coming soon trailer preview. You know? So here, let's give a quick answer to the talk. Mr. Within's reevaluation of the sociolinguistic simulation is that we started off from a singular position, then we moved on to a multidimensional, then we moved on to a singular, then we realized this is a pattern. So most people, if they identify with the outer realms only, you are not, there's no such thing as free will. How can there be when something else is moving you? That means it's kind of strange, isn't it? Both when you ask the atheist, they say free will is an illusion, and when you ask the theist, they say there's no free will, it's all God's will. Both angles make devoid the individual. This is why Zen masters, this is why Buddhists get along, I feel, with atheists. Because at the end of the day, they all both acknowledge this massive emptiness, you know? But other religions, certain monotheistic, Judaic religions, Abrahamic religions, like, these religions are different. They come with insignificance of events. That means most people feel like people are drawn to religion because of its intellectual analysis. No, it's a story. It is a picture. Literally, it's like, here's the thing. For me, it's like it's literally like if we took a TV, if you played a film on your laptop and you had a time machine and you went back to your ancestors and you just left that laptop there, and your ancestors found this laptop and they're like, what is this film, right? So words are images at their core, right? So let me tell you what it is. It's about what ideological system is more aware of the mystery. People are pulled towards that. They're not pulled towards uh, the rational or the purely emotional. You know, there was this very epic story of Rumi where he said, where let me see, what was the story? Yeah, Shams Tabrizi, this mystic, meets Rumi, this guy in his 30s, who's in some sense like reading the science book by a fountain or something. You know what I mean? And this guy's reading this science book by this fountain, Rumi. This is like 700 years ago, imagine. And this man who later on becomes Rumi's, like, kind of in the same way we have in Buddhism, guru-disciple relationship, in Sufism, we also have that, you know? So what happens is he later on becomes like Rumi's kind of mentor. But anyways, this guy, he comes out of nowhere. Back in the day, the spiritual archetype was a solo traveler without any expectation. Right now, we're solo travelers with expectations, so the best way for us to multidimensionally travel is collective, because we can take care of each other's blind spots. That means, like, the pursuit of knowledge, there's a one-man level that's happening, but all those one-man level experiences of knowledge, it's like their collective has a different power accessible. So anyways, Rumi is reading the science book, and what happens is Shams Tabrizi, this kind of next level esoteric dervish, he comes, and what does he do? He says, "Hey kid, what are you reading?" And Rumi looks at this like spiritual, wild man, that has just appeared like a Pokemon, And Rumi in some sense says, he says, "Nothing you would understand, old man. This is the newest sciences of the time." That means, buddy, I was the son of a duke. I know this. There's no way even if I can explain this to you. Like, he's literally dismissing the intelligence of someone who is not in Rumi's definition of intelligence. So in that moment, Shams Tabrizi, the spiritual wild man, he takes the book and he throws it in the fountain where Rumi's sitting beside. And Rumi gets shocked. He gets this sort of shock. First, he gets kind of offended, like, how dare this guy? But then on another level, he sees the book. There was only one copy. And that science book back in the day was rare. That was like the only hope. Maybe that book had maybe rare scientific findings, But because it was written on ink, the moment it was thrown in the fountain, it was destroyed. And so Rumi looks at Shams and he says, "Do you know what you have done? Do you know what you have done? You have destroyed the most important knowledge of our time. You have destroyed the most important knowledge of our time. You did not honor the sciences," in other words. And Shams, in that moment, he takes the book out of the water, and Rumi is speechless. His rationality just shuts down on the spot. And what happens is Shams Tabrizi gives the science book to Rumi, completely dry, as if it never fell. And in some sense, he gives it to Rumi and says, knowledge that could be wiped with water is not real knowledge, is no knowledge at all. And what he means is that in our approaches in our life, usually it's temporary techniques to get temporary results. Like, we want quick hacks, we want certain quick maneuvers. But this is different. This is you wondering, your eyes are here now. And now is here now. And when you look at the word, the word now and here, it's pretty much nowhere. You literally are looking at nowhere. Without the space between the W and the H, you're nowhere. So that's the thing. This world is way more mysterious than our really like civilized, cute, adorable fax machine level civilization. I'm telling you, our civilization is acting so silly. It's not even, it's like after some point I could totally see we are going to just, if we realize we can't undo how messed up we've made civilization, it's just going to be a humorous hell. And what I mean by that is that what can you do when chaos is there? You can cry or you can laugh. That means the inevitable is the inevitable. On some level, you have to be conscious enough to ask, where is the border of my intelligence? Because the mind is in some sense, I wrote it in this work of mine called The Source of Language. I said it, your mind is made of sky, your body is made of the earth. Your mind is technically an endless field. Right now we're coming across as individuals and we're making sounds, but I'm telling you, It's like nature created the internet before uh, uh, we needed one, and the way it did it with information in the mind is that it's kind of like in a uh, we're like three-dimensional beings, and our knowledge is two-dimensional. And I'm saying we have to create a new language, either go towards a geometrical language, or we have to make the world a multidimensional place. Because really, you look at it, it's like I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, how silly. Even though life seems to be happening in phases, and there seems to be this kind of building and this endless view of causations and probabilities and the occurrences of them and whatnot, this endless cause and effect kind of like endless things being caused right now. That means right now, as I'm giving a live stream on the YouTube platform, like millions of other people are also giving live streams. You see? I think it's a seriousness we lack, but it's a seriousness we can't have because our seriousness is about shape. And if the mind is unshaped, it's kind of saying, how do you hold gas in your hand? It's like a gas state kind of thing. Like, how can you, in some sense, like hold steam? Can you grab onto steam? You see, it's impossible. You see, and so that's the kind of thing. And I was like, all right. So if we, as a civilization, realize that we're too limited to give an answer, that means we should build a civilization that honors the question. That means if we want to build a civilization where we're giving where everybody has an answer, that would be chaos. But questions can fall underneath each other. That means you can bond with someone better over how you two perhaps interpret the question, rather how you two interpret the question rather than how each of you has an answer. The moment really can't have an answer. It's just projections, and whichever is kind of louder or longer remains. You know? There was a time that I had an experience that I had no words for, but only through this poetry, this like this kind of mystical poetry I'd written, I kind of got an explanation for it. Sometimes you could go through I mean, realistically, no, because nobody has your eyes, there's kind of a rareness of every experience a person experiences, right? An advanced civilization will care. I'm saying we can give freedom to the inner realms, but it shouldn't be enforced. Anything enforced will be a karmic infusion of the enforcer. Things should be pointed to, but they shouldn't be Like you shouldn't throw like a plate of food at someone, you know, but you can definitely hand them a plate of food. Let's say it's dinner time or something. So you know what I mean? Like it's sometimes life is not just about the beliefs or the views. It's also about how you live it. And I was thinking of talking about this, but I'm going to talk more about this in hopefully this new channel, this art channel I'm going to start. Pretty much, guys. I mean, I've reached the end of the talk. Just kind of wake the conscious waking state. You know, there's these three major states: the deep sleep, dream state, and conscious waking state. Yogis and mystics acknowledge this. In the Rebhu Gita, there's a fourth state, which is the witness of all three. Literally, it's a state that's not in time, so it doesn't change. There's no change in that dimension. So here's the conclusion of the talk, guys. Your eyes are open. That's your reevaluation, how you're experiencing the now. Now, also, I'm saying kind of before we jump to belief or truth or all this, let us see how the self or how the moment is an influence of the society and an influence of language. Wonder about how you're a creature of language. Wonder about how you're a social creature, and don't fear unknown territory. Everything is unknown until you try it out, until you see what it is, until you advance, until we care. That means it's like it's going to be unknown for us in advanced civilization unless we try it. That's the thing. That's what I want to see. I just want to see the species. Oh my god, drop its cup of coffee on the table. Joking. Fascinating. Who knew notebooks could drink coffee? Ah, sorry guys, give me a second. Okay, guys. I don't know. Just like how coffee just poured on my notebook right now, I feel that many unknown events can take place. And really, when it comes to reevaluation, literally there's nothing to worry about, because as long as you can look at something in a new way, you're not trapped in the old way you were looking at it. That's the power of the mind. The body could feel like a statue, but the mind will be like, no, you're not, when you look in the mirror. There is something more here, guys. It's more than just how we're an object or how we notice subjects. Beyond that, I've really thought about it. It was a challenge, because for me, I got way more hype from evolution. That means the way they explained to me evolution, the concept was fascinating, to the point where I felt it was as if endless updates. But then when you look at it and you see it's a slow, gradual update, but strangely a caterpillar becomes a totally different creature. Like, you telling me on this planet we have a creature as like the caterpillar that's on a leaf and has all these legs and has access to a two-dimensional plane. And then it goes through a process of metamorphosis. Like, the caterpillar knows when to go to the cocoon. It goes and it starts dying to itself. The caterpillar is the most enlightened insect I have ever seen. It literally goes into a cocoon and perishes. And what happens in metamorphosis is that the cells of the caterpillar die until the last cell. And then from the moment the last cell dies, the new cells of the butterfly emerge. And then a creature steps out of the cocoon with totally new mobility. And there's even this challenge of wondering, is it even the same creature? Does it have access to the same memory as, for example, what do you call it? Can you be a butterfly with caterpillar memories? Do you know what I mean? I feel there could be a huge chance that every experience we have is becoming, this word I use sometimes, I call it eternalized. Eternalized. I'm going to write it here in the chat section so people can see what I mean by it. Pretty much it's this concept I've created where I say the word eternalized. Of course it has a certain meaning in regards to the glorification of the legacy, but I'm saying aside from that, eternalized, in some sense, I kind of saw a simultaneity with eternal eyes. And I was like, everything that's perceived by eternal eyes is eternalized. That's the way I kind of came to this. So I'm writing it here for him. It's all about realizing that as you just take a step, just do something in this life, the geometry comes more in display. The more important something is, the more your full intelligence is being accessed. If something is not important for you, you stop yourself from doing it. So guys, in Mr. Within's dictionary, eternalized equals everything perceived by eternalized. I forgot to put that. So anyways, guys, that's the end of the talk. Yeah, that's the end of the talk. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. Usually it's a 10-minute Q&A. Anybody who has a question, if you want me to help you think about something, maybe, you know, you want a second opinion on something, like, or anything, people can ask. So there's a 10-minute Q&A open. I honestly need to get a keyboard that doesn't actually feel like a typewriter. Excuse me. So guys, I'm gonna go out of pretty much cyberspace. Anybody who has a question, just write it in the chat section. I'll come back into cyberspace to answer your question. So anybody who's listened so far, thanks for tuning in. This is pretty much the Q&A portion. Okay guys, so Bryant in the chat section says, it's the first question, what are your views on the afterlife? Depends how you're asking it. That means you can perceive, if, like Einstein says, we created time, so everything doesn't happen all at once, and Plato says time is a moving image of eternity. So if you think everything is happening at once, technically there is no before after to life. So if you're at that state of mind and you're asking that person, that kind of state of mind, what an afterlife is, they would tell you the afterlife is now. They will literally tell you the afterlife is right now, because to them it's all happening at once. When religion, in the religious context, I gotta point this out, because it's like, you know how I said the secular minded goes towards the void. The what do you call it? Pretty much the theist is blaming God's will, and the atheist is blaming emptiness. Emptiness was the mother, nothingness or whatever, nothing was the mother of the Big Bang. Okay? So I would say that the afterlife, if time, okay, here's a better way of saying it. If you are asking what the afterlife is for a person in time, as a person who you feel time is, if you feel your free will is an illusion, time is projected. So I would say, what is, if we, before we wondered about the afterlife, if we wondered about life, I'm telling you, on some level, it's we are seeing the meaning. We're putting the meaning in it. So it's like, it's kind of saying some moments in life, it's like an empty page. There's no truth to find. There's nothing. It's just your intention. as an activity. So I would say that for me, the afterlife, um, if you think you're a mind moving your body, you are the afterlife. It's all happening now. If you're a body and you think there's an afterlife, if there's a thought that there's other dimensions, I feel pretty much you're gonna wake up in your life in another civilization. I think that's if you ask my personal opinion, I think there is. I mean, of course, it's playful. I have multiple views on this, like different theories on the origin. But I'm saying like I feel this universe is not that it's empty. Fermi said, "Where are the aliens?" This is called Fermi's paradox. He's like, "Why is this universe so freaking empty? Why are we like only our planet is like having a party? Why is everywhere else quiet? You know, why is nobody? Why are there no other species partying it out evolutionary wise? You know." So I would say my view on the afterlife would be, for my personal self, would be to see what my mind is completely. So for me, it's like whatever happens in this life, there's also the curiosity to see what happens, what next. That means what next when there's no even what to even be next, you know? So I would say that I feel there is a you see, it's not like the way the parallel world theory, and from a scientific angle. You know how like in one dimension you're combing your hair left, in one dimension you're in one parallel reality you're combing your hair right, in one parallel reality you're combing your hair left, right? So what is that? That means literally there's infinite versions of you. I don't entertain that. I entertain that semi. It's as if that's some of the picture, that there is a parallel coexistence. But I see that parallel coexistence. This is going to sound hilarious, guys, but really in an onion style multidimensionality. So I feel that um, the body is a simultaneous life, and the mind is simultaneously living a life. And beyond the mind, there's also something. That means your unknown self is present. Your known self is pretty much your personality is present. You have access to it. But the unknown self, you don't know it. You're not conscious of it, but it's present. It's there. I'm just saying three modes. Either the light has completely illuminated every corner of the room, either the room is completely dark, or in some sense the light has semi lit the room. And that's where we find ourselves. Literally, like, if you ask human beings how much do you know about the world, I would probably say 50%. I think everybody can feel 50% they know, because it's a coin flip inevitably. Let me tell you why. Because it's like decisions inevitably narrow down. That means it's like when, imagine like it's like those video games you see like Tekken or something. Imagine like this battle, Mortal Kombat kind of battle between the imagine Mortal Kombat. What I'm saying, like imagine the worst people, chaotic people, most evil people fighting between themselves to see who wins. It would literally be chaos's emergence. So chaos has to destroy itself to unite. But order has to create itself to unite. So I would say on some level, my view on the afterlife is that the afterlife is just something in my view. The view will still be unknown. The viewer will be unknown. I feel that I even go a bit, in my school of thought, the soul doesn't have a personality. So I'm not expecting to just keep being this. There's just this wonder of what, okay, let's see. Let's see the rest of it, you know? So Brian, that was my effort to give an answer. Nate Reeves asks another question. Do you believe, as Alan Watts did, that we are, in quotations, the works? We are the God we try to define. I feel if we are God, then we are kind of like, how would I say it? You can't be. Because, not that you can't. Then somebody's going to be like, yo, Mr. Within's telling me I can't be a God. I'm joking, guys. Just, sometimes language, you gotta just glide through it and go to the next part. Let me see. So the question is, are we the works? We are the God the God we're trying to define. Now, here's the thing. That's the end of meditation, literally. This man named Swami Krishnananda, he says the moment you see the inseparability of how you are an individual, aka man, and how you are a cosmic activity, the inseparability of the individual activity and cosmic activity is literally a moment where there's no longer a meditator and a meditation, and so there is literally no more meditation, no more concepts. You're no longer just a conceptually oriented creatures. Your mind's life is becomes active. So I would say that, Meister Eckhart, Mark Meister Eckhart says the same eyes I see God are the same eyes God sees me. Swami Krishnananda also says religion is God remembering himself. That means technically there's no such thing as man. Man is like a thought. It is like an idea in the mind of this unfathomable, inconceivable intelligence everywhere. Right? So it's pretty much human beings have the option of looking at the world and seeing, is it intelligent or is it not intelligent? Right? We saw ourselves as animate personalities, and some person at some point in the 6th century was like, yo man, I think the world is a person. There you go. As simple as that. So I feel there is nobody, it's like religion was just a stepping stone that inevitably would have been crossed in any civilization, that the creature has an individual consciousness. The individual consciousness will wonder about its reality in the macro. So you're going to wonder about how, like, you're being an individual if the whole universe is an individual. So that's a fair, like, that's not, it's not too much of, fundamentalism is the issue, I think. But not the idea. Language is harmless. Language is just ink on paper. It's the human relationship with the language, you know? So I would say that yes, technically we're being the drop. The drop is in the ocean, and the ocean is in the drop. But I feel we are not here to be God. We're not here to become gods. I feel that's not the point. Even though inevitably it's kind of hilarious. Friedrich Nietzsche declared, um, God is dead and man killed him. you know? And what he meant is that we put the idea that there's a puppeteer to the cosmos aside, but not realizing subconsciously we're trying to be that. And that's really the effort of technology. If I could really simply tell you where technology is taking us, it would be to greater control over our experience. And so we are defining the concept of God, or Alan Watts here, as the works. He's saying literally that where the show is happening. Alan Watts is the when he says the works, we are the works. He's talking about the Leela, the play of all. Literally, he's saying that uh, if there was no time, there would be no event. God would not be separate from its creation. It wouldn't. The ideological relationship wouldn't exist. So I'm saying that on some level, human beings, yeah, in the future they are. Who knows? You know, the guy's gonna come home from work. Imagine he puts his old school kind of briefcase and trench coat and hat, you know, away, and he goes and he sits in front of the TV, you know, and the person suddenly is like, oh, what a long day at work. Then he puts these virtual reality cyberspace goggles on, and then the guy is like flying as a superhero in this multiplayer online simulation. We see this trend. You see, the more technology is becoming exciting, human beings are seeing the fire and reacting to it. And the fire or the inspiration of it is kind of. Anyways. In some sense, I'm saying before language, who were you? And I feel it's a silent attention just being. It's too instantaneous to be a concept. We're too instantaneously true to be a truth that's event oriented. So, on some level, if there is an ultimate truth, it's instantaneous, I feel. But these are great questions, guys. These are questions that will open many doors, I think, for modern philosophy. Javi says, where do you draw your inspiration from? So I'm going to ask you a question so I could give you a better answer. When you say, where do you draw your inspiration from? Are you asking the inspiration for the talk, or my overall what I'm doing in my life inspiration? So which level are you talking? Inspiration for what? If you can tell me that, I can answer the question, John. You know what would be hilarious? If John in the chat section was asked the question, is like tuned out of the talk, you know. Okay, yeah, let's try some answer. All right, guys. Inspiration. My inspiration. Uh, where does my inspiration? Where do I draw my inspiration from? It's not from a personal dimension, because it's not for it's like my whole inspiration is like I see this unique potential. Or let me say it like this: my inspiration comes from realizing there's no greater game to play than building an advanced civilization. The inner realms are not like when you think about it, really, when you're in physical reality, if you don't pay attention too much to the physical, you technically become the absence of the encompassing. So as long as we're individual creatures, we gotta have some activity. And I'm thinking, what's the most ultimate activity? And just the idea, I'm like, okay, I want to see a more updated, advanced civilization. It's like you walking somewhere and seeing something that's not updated, but it can be, and you're like, why not? Why hasn't the person updated this? You know. It's like somebody, this imagine like the store owner who's put, I've done literally like this store coffee shop put this sign, okay, outside of their coffee shop, and I could see the people inside. They're just like waiting for customers to come in, but the sign had fallen over because of the wind, right? And I was like, the person's people in there are waiting, not realizing their sign had fallen, you know. So I suddenly realized, all right, let's help this random business. So I fixed the sign randomly. But I'm saying like, oh, okay, so Javi gave an answer here. Everything that I do. Usually the inspiration comes when something is important that I feel I have to literally exist. Literally, it's like, that's a great question. Because I can't tell you if my inspiration is really conceptual or if it's an image or it's a feeling. I think it's like a feeling. Yeah. It's not like I consciously think of a subject and I'm like inspiring, let's run towards that. It's literally I feel what is there in the moment as whatever. Like everybody listening to me right now, everybody can just study how they're existing in the moment with a totally new context, for example. So I would say, here's the thing. Most likely in this life, my ideological life inspiration is that I'm pretty much writing this book and I'm going to try to go around the world and just see who wants to listen to what I want to say. You know, like that's my attempt. I'm like, all right. And the book is about civilization 2.0. So that literally my brain exists just for that. Like my brain has concluded out of all the ideas in this world, external in front of my eyes, ideas that relate to the outer realms. Civilization 2.0 was literally, I don't know how to tell you guys, some things you kind of look at your childhood and you see every experience you've had kind of prepared you for that, was pointing that way, you know? So Civilization 2.0 would be my outer inspiration. My inner inspiration is let me tell you, it's not that there's an inspiration. It's not an inspiration. It's a temporal it's a temporal responsibility. It's literally like, imagine you have a phone in your hand now and soon you might not have a phone, for example. It's literally what you notice as an opportunity. So I feel I don't know, because on some level, like I don't. There's no world to save on some level. On some level, on a long enough timeline, you can see extinction and ultimate erasing of whatever. Like in like, uh, what is it, like a trillion, like what is it, a billion years, for a couple billion years or trillion years? Like I don't know what the number is, but it's like the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way galaxy are going to collide. So it's not for an image. The images change all the time. It's the importance of sharing the image. It's the importance of attempting the new while you can. That's it. That would be the best general way I could tell you what inspires me. It's just that I could look at things that are repeating throughout the day, and I could see patterns I'm already aware of, or I could constantly see, like, I think the best way to kind of look to have children go towards knowledge, it's as if like it's like there's more to the alphabet you never knew, to an alphabet that you never knew. uh, I don't know. I think that's the best answer I have for you. It's literally try to give a solution, not give a solution, but attempt to make the continuity. I want to see just like the efficient win-win situation of humanity. I see you see birds in nature, you see they fly together, you see like fish, they swim together, you know, you know, bees have their royalty. So I'm telling you, it's kind of like we're 8 billion creatures on a rock. We can each go in our inner realms, we can trap ourselves in our own cyberspace goggles, or we can, in some sense, just build an advanced civilization and kind of have a new philosophical approach. Because your hope is technically still an approach to the world. So, did you know hope can update? So, anyways, man, that's what I would say. So, guys, if there's more questions, keep them coming. If not, we will reevaluate the social linguistics. I will share something though, Javi. I just remembered. The way I get inspiration for the talks is different. Everything that I do, it becomes more generalized, so it's less of a picture, more like just either a gut instinct or a trust or some sort of uh, certainty of perception. Your instincts is when you trust the manifest. That means right now we should create a advanced civilization. Let me tell you, it's when images come before language. That's how I get inspired to give these talks. I see something in my inner realms. I see a landscape. For example, there was this notable writer and speaker, Sam Harris, who he has this great debate with Jordan Peterson. he has this book called The Moral Landscape, and when you think about where where the canvas of that landscape is, it's inner. Right now, if you wonder about where the canvas of your identity is, it's an inner activity, right? So it's strange. It's like we're being a subject that's moving an object, but at the same time, it's aware that it's a subject and an object. It's aware of both of them. It's so aware you can't even say them. All right, guys. I'm gonna do something incredible I just thought of that I'm like, why haven't I been doing this? I'm gonna ask a question from my. I'm gonna ask a question as if I was listening to what I just said to you in this talk. What would I ask if I was watching as a sort of unidentified kind of third view? I would ask, what value is there? How can you evaluate a simulation? I would ask that question. How could you even evaluate something where the source is unknown, the effect is whatever, but that's the whole point of the illusion. It's like you see the surface, you don't see the ocean. Anyways, guys, there's this question that Aziz says, do you fast? Guys, fasting for me is not a ideological event. It's literally a way it's kind of like in Rumi's poetry, he says, yes, this next level poetic line. And really, because there was a lot of hungry people back then, you got to give them hope. Rumi would say, when the stomach is full, the soul is empty. When the stomach is, when the stomach is full, the soul is empty. When the stomach is empty, the soul is full. Right? And what that meant is, let me tell you why. Because your attention, literally the attention of your whole moment is less on a physical activity. So you're more as your space. We have to now try to not find a truth illusion, a correct, wrong way of looking at life. It's multidimensional, and we have to start archiving and this multidimensionality properly. What does that mean? That means an idea, a concept can have endless meanings if it has endless contexts. Do you understand that? Contexts are like the views. You look at the context. So imagine an object in front of you, and you literally go around the object and move. So if you wanted to get, let's say, different degrees of perception, but instead on an object, on a subject. honestly, guys, life can be is can be it's too simpler than the complexity, or it can be more complex than the simple could ever suggest. I mean, really, it's after some point, it's how you walk. It's like what's the meaning of walking in a park? You know, it's like when you're there, that's you're a person walking in a park. When you wake up in your conscious waking state, you're a human being, part of the human species, part of this 4 billion-year-old effort, this 4 billion-year-old science project that's just been left here, and people are like, no, I want to go into nature. I feel like I am calling all those people in nature to come back. It's like we want to build an advanced civilization that can handle itself, that can literally like deal with its own shenanigans, right? So the issue is not to get rid of chaos, not to get rid of order, but to create some sort of system that is giving more space so chaos and order, instead of fighting each other, can become self-reflective systems. That means there was this show. Uh, I think the guy's name was Isayama Hayame. Oh man, I don't remember. Let me Google this, guys. Uh, Isayama. There we go. Isayama. Let me see what the is that the Hajime Isayama. There we go. There's this incredible. This guy is, for me, one of the most important storytellers of our generation, of ever in history. He's literally the guy who, after Gulliver's Travels and Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, this man literally wrote the next great creative narrative of a world with giants in it, right? So there's a scene where there's these giants that pretty much are eating humanity's last stronghold before it goes extinct. And so there's this scene there's this scene where there's this general that one of these giants steals an important soldier, and there's this general named Erwin, and his strategy is he goes and brings a horde of giants chasing him, and right to the, like, let me tell you, he does this thing where you kind of, like, when you're fighting two enemies, you get one enemy to chase you, then you run towards the other enemy, then you get out of the way, and those two pretty much destroy each other. You know, it's like just war tactics. You know, after some point, guys, military is just not military. Warfare, the concept of war, it, it's still alive in chess. I'm telling you, it's like life is really, on an intellectual level, a chess game. What does that mean? That means you make certain decisions based on certain variables and probabilities and potentials you see, and then you wait. And then you see the effect of your decisions, which is literally like the other pieces move, chess pieces moving. So it's like it's literally like every chess piece you move on the chessboard when you play chess with someone, you're seeing the karma of the whole kingdom change. So anyways, guys, the idea was that it was like, I don't know. The last picture I have is just the two forces are managed. Anyways, so thanks everybody for listening. This was a long one. Actually, not that long. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Much blessings and namaste. Thanks for the question.